Hey guys, my name is Shroomy. I have a lot of different names and I just really like lore. Well, it's finally time that we made a dedicated video talking about 2 of the upcoming heroes. Now, I already made a video kind of talking about all the heroes and what we know generally, but yeah, that one's there for people who want to know the lore. For this one, I want to focus on the 2 Omnic heroes coming out this year, or 2 robots. We don't really know anything about these 2 at all, literally nothing actually, so this is going to be a pretty big speculation video. I do want to take a moment before we get too deep into this topic to just kind of talk about how crazy it is that we're getting another Omnic in general. The last robot we got, period, in Overwatch was Ramatra, all the way back in 2022, and it's just been a long time since then. If you want to get even more specific, the last time we got an Omnic that was more of the basic model was, of course, with Zenyatta himself. So we've never actually had another Omnic that's of the same model or really akin to his design. The Omnic Detective seems to be that, judging by the dots on his head, but we'll have to wait till we get a full look at him to really see what's going on there. Another thing to mention too is, with the female Omnic design, we haven't even gotten a real female Omnic hero. Orisa and Echo are both robots, they're AI. Omnics are robots touched by Aurora's signal and gain sentience, so there is a difference between the 2 groups. I think this year we're going to be getting one of 2, and I'll be breaking it down as we go along here ahead. Definitely important to bring up just how many we're getting this year and how little we've gotten in the past, so I thought I'd mention it before getting too deep. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as per usual. It really helps the channel, and it helps me know what you guys want to see more of. Now, I have a couple ideas on both of them, but I have a little bit more concrete evidence on the female-looking character, the robot character that's kind of off to the left. So we'll be starting with her. Let's get into this one by talking about exactly who this character could be, because I have really only 2 big avenues for where this character could go, but there is evidence for both. So, the first one is, of course, what I talked about in my original video. I think this character could be a part of Null Sector, so first and foremost, let's kind of talk about community reaction and reception. This year, we're getting a lot of long-requested characters such as Emery, Demon, apparently, Jetpack Cat, at least one Hashimoto character, which has been a thing people have wanted for a while. So, with all that in mind, it does make sense to do another long-requested hero, this time being the Stalker PvE enemy type. I don't think this hero's specifically going to be the Stalker, of course, but I think it could be a character that's based on that design, or kind of incorporates the aesthetic and look, or maybe even the personality, in a sense, of that kind of character into more of the core hero design. This kind of goes in hand with a lot of the other heroes coming out this year, since they've all been long running, and the Stalker PvE enemy is the one that everyone always says they want to play as, so that is an avenue they could go. As well, if you look at the design, it does kind of scream Null Sector. Like, especially the kind of diamond appearance, which is kind of like Ramatra's nanites. This is something that I've seen a lot of people talking about, specifically that part, but also the legs do look pretty robotic, so I could see this being an Omnic who's wearing a helmet and is a DPS of some sort. If they do go down this route, we could be looking at Ramatra getting back into the limelight next year with a return of Null Sector. If they do what they did last year with Vendetta, where this character would be the connecting character for next year, this could be the first Null Sector hero we get aside from Ramatra, and usher in the story's grand return to them. It would make a lot of sense if we go from Talon to Null Sector, just kind of building up through the enemy factions again, but there is another interesting avenue they could go with this character, and this is the area I want to talk about more so. So, over the last couple days, I've kind of come up with a theory that I want to talk about. I think this character could be a part of the Kishin. Now, if you don't know who the Kishin are, we've made a video on this channel about them already, but they're basically the robots who live in the ocean next to South Korea, that the Mecha Squad continues to fight to this day. You can see them in D.Va's animated short, and they're kind of an ongoing threat. Now, the last thing that happened with their story was we got an update last year on Busan. On the map, it basically says that the Mecha Squad is preparing to attack the Omnium that's buried deep under the ocean and turn the machines offline, or at least push them back for a couple years. Now, at the time, we didn't really know what this was, but as time went on and we got to the spotlight, this kind of turned into a Demon thing. So people are assuming this is a teaser for Demon and we're going to be getting a story talking about this, and this could possibly be the Demon joining Overwatch, but I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. While I do think this is a bit of a Demon teaser, I do think also this could be a teaser for a Kishin hero. So, if you look at her design first and foremost, she's kind of got bulky shoulders. And if we look at the other Omnics in the Kishin, they also have bulkier shoulders. Another design aspect I want to bring up is Bastion's legs and his Kishin skin. If we look at his legs compared to this one, there is a kind of similarity, as well as just general body language of the two designs. If you look at the silhouette and of the Kishin Omnics in general, they do kind of look similar. So this could be a Kishin Omnic. As well, if we look at the time frame of when this hero would be coming out, Demon is coming out right before BlizzCon, so it would make sense that this hero be the BlizzCon hero, and that they can tie that all together and create maybe an animated piece or big story beat moment leading one into the other. That would make a lot more sense to me, judging by the fact that all heroes seemingly are connected to the main story this year, so this character being connected to the main plot through Demon, but also maybe Talon and Vendetta shenanigans could be what they do. Maybe the Kishin here are going to be joining Talon, or at least working alongside them to just kind of pull them into the main narrative. But who exactly could this character be if they're from this faction? The Kishin are Omnics who don't really have any sentient people in them, but there is a theory that people have had for a long time, and I tend to agree with it. Maybe this character could be the AI that runs the Kishin down there. The Kishin have kind of evolved over time, and they're basically almost confirmed to be a smart AI in a sense, where every time they lose a battle, they learn, adapt, and bring a new unit out that's no one's ever seen it before. So it kind of implies some level of sentience. So maybe the one in this body is going to be our main villain of the Kishin. Maybe it could be the AI that was put down there by Anubis. I think that could make a lot of sense, and maybe with the Omnium getting destroyed, this new Omnic, or, well, new robot, I should say, doesn't really have anywhere to go, so it has to move outwards to look to Vendetta and other forces to help it take back its home, or just to destroy the Mecha Squad. This could be why Demon gets involved with everything and maybe works with Overwatch in the future, kind of gives her a reason to kind of be around a bit more with D.Va, but also gives D.Va a little bit of stuff to do as well. So yeah, I do think there's a really good chance she could be a part of the Kishin. Going alongside the Kishin idea is an old thing from Overwatch Declassified, Watchpoint Monterey. Submerged underwater in California, it was basically doing experimental research and things that weren't really allowed by other places. After Overwatch's fall and everything kind of went to chaos, the UN shut the base down, so a lot of people go down there now to kind of go explore. But in recent years, there's been signs of a ghost or some type of creature lurking around the base, basically haunting it and keeping people away. This kind of goes hand in hand with Kishin, since Kishin are the only other real thing we have to be submerged underwater, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is related in some way, or maybe it's the same technology. Maybe this thing that's here is involved with everything that happened with Anubis, or more so that Anubis created this thing for some reason. I do think this thing is going to end up being some type of Omnic or robot, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they tie this character to this as another idea. This is also a really deep lore cut, so I really want to see what happens with this in general. This watch point in particular has only been mentioned in Declassified, so with those two big theories out of the way, I do want to mention a third one I've seen people talk about with her. So if you look at her design, she kind of has like a raggedy kind of clothes aesthetic, so maybe she could be a feral Omnic. This one has the least evidence going for it, I have to admit, and I'm not even fully sold on this idea right now, but I thought I'd bring it up. The Feral Omnics are another faction people have really wanted to see, myself included, so maybe she could be a part of them. It would make a lot of sense to finally do stuff with them, especially with the Junker teases this year, and also, if you look at the roadmap, Junker Queen and D.Va are on that season. So maybe D.Va is implying the Demon connection, and Junker Queen is implying a Feral Omnic of some sense. I think her design is a little too clean to be a Feral Omnic though. Feral Omnics are pretty raggedy and aren't really a major lore thing, so I'm not sure if they would go down that avenue or really be anything more than background filler for the time being. Feral Omnics in the lore are something that we really don't know anything about, aside from them being radiated Omnics that are out in the outback and get hunted by Junkers, so not a lot to go on there. Yeah, those are the main three story beats, or well, ideas I wanted to talk about with her. So she is kind of going in an interesting way, but with the other one, the male Omnic, there are a couple more interesting ideas that I want to talk about with him, because there are some interesting story beats that could come of this character. So, depending on when this guy comes out, we could be looking at either the character that leads us into the next storyline like Vendetta, or just kind of his own little character in his own little bubble. For both ideas, I'll just kind of explain my two core theories with this guy. One, he could be a part of the IJC. Now, I have to give credit to my friend Euclid. He's the one who came up with this idea first, but I really love what he said, and kind of am evolving to enjoy it more and more the more I think about it. So, the IJC is the International Justice Commission, and they're a group in the Overwatch world that's responsible for shutting down Overwatch originally, but also keeping tabs on them. We don't really have a hero from them, so it would be really cool to get a hero involved with them, but also a character who's an Omnic. Because, well, we don't really get to hear about how Omnics are treated inside the government itself, so it would be really neat. Also, this guy is screaming detective to me, so maybe he is a detective for the International Justice Commission. Maybe hunting down whatever's going on with Talon, or keeping tabs on Overwatch, and that's how we get him involved to an extent. I do like this idea a lot, but I'm not exactly sold on this one. I think this guy's a lot more 50-50, and there's a lot of avenues they could go with him. Another thing to bring up with him is, of course, his cane, trench coat, and just general attire. Like I said, he is looking like a detective, or giving off at least a mysterious or mystique kind of vibe. So there is another thing I want to bring up with him, and another idea that I've seen floating around. I think this guy could be our first official conspiracy hero. Let me explain. So, the Conspiracy is a faction in the Overwatch world we've talked about so much, but it's basically the idea of a faction that kind of rules the world from the shadows. What better character to start this organization and get the ball rolling on them than a mysterious Omnic who shows up out of nowhere and doesn't explain anything of what he's doing, aside from maybe helping Vendetta and Talon and not really explaining anything else. That could be a really interesting avenue to go down and kind of just give us an idea of who this character and faction is without them explaining anything about it really. This is also something that doesn't really have a lot of leg room or really wiggle room in general to really move around with, but I do think I want to bring it up just to kind of talk about. So, if this character is going to be the connecting character next year, like Vendetta was, then maybe we lead into a conspiracy arc where we get more characters focused around that faction. Maybe this guy is our ticket in, and then we get more characters down the road. I think this is kind of likely, judging by the fact that we're going to be focusing on major factions every year, and the conspiracy is getting a lot of build-up through Emery. So maybe we use Emery as kind of the springboard to lead to this guy, and then we'll use this guy to bring on to the next thing. That is another idea that I've seen kind of floating around, but it's also one that I think is kind of plausible in a sense, but once again, there's not enough concrete information to really go on anything aside from that. So, those are the two major ideas I've had for this character. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about him. Personally, this is the one I'm more excited for at the moment, just because we haven't really had an Omnic in years. But now that we've talked about both characters, I do want to take a minute to kind of talk about a broader theory and idea I've had about the future of the story this year. So if you haven't seen my other video, I've already talked about this in there. There is a good chance that these two Omnic heroes are going to be connected to the upcoming map, Watchpoint Grimsvoten, in Iceland. So, Watchpoint Grimsvoten is a giant maximum security prison, and from the little bit of art we've gotten on the map, it looks like it's going to be broken into. So, maybe one of these characters, presumably the female Omnic character, could be breaking out, and if so, this Omnic, the detective, is probably going to be the one who's going to be tracking her down. Maybe we get the Omnic first, and it leads us on a little goose chase for the rest of the year until we eventually find her. Maybe she's working with Vendetta, or maybe she's working with Null Sector and she's going back to Antarctica. All of this could really tie in and go in a lot of different directions, because I do think these two are going to be important to each other. This map in general as well, we don't really have any other lore connections to, so I'm kind of pulling at what I can here to really make something out of it. But that's all for me in this one. I want to hear what you guys have to say about these characters, because there is a lot of stuff we can talk about with them, but these are just my ideas on them, and I really want to hear what you guys have to say on them. These two in particular are the ones I'm most excited for, so what do you think? Do you like the ideas I came up with? What ideas do you have for these two characters? And, of course, are you excited to see more of these guys in the future? Omnics are something we really need more of, and robots in general, so I hope these guys set an idea and precedent for getting more of them in the future. Maybe at least one a year if we keep the 5 hero a year cadence. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I appreciate everyone watching. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!